It's been long. I mean, we got in touch. It's been like, I don't know, like 5-7 years since we spoke to each other. Suddenly we are there.
Yeah, perhaps.
And it's a real privilege for me again to have you here, and very excited. So do tell something about you briefly, like since all our students here. So what we want is like a more of a perspective of you from the student's point of view, like, you know, how you got interested in animation, and as a student, where you decided to start, you know, launch your career, and, you know, what choices you made. So just can you please talk about
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me over and making me a part of this mentorship series. I hope it's insightful for you guys. So yeah, a little bit about myself. My name is Prashanth. I am from Bangalore. I've been an animator for the last 12 years, like Gautam mentioned. Prior to that, I was a generalist. I was doing a bit of everything, like modeling, texturing, and stuff like that. So my journey into CG started in the year 2004, I think. And I was a part of a couple of small setups in South Bangalore. Basically, I come from an engineering background, and the reason I really got started off in the first place is because my final year engineering project was a design-oriented thing. Like we were designing something like a antenna fin mounting plate or like something for a Jaguar aircraft, and this was an HAL, I remember. So it was all super dry and, you know, very technical and stuff like that. But then we had to present it. While presenting it, we were thinking of interesting ways of doing it. So that was my first time. That's the first time I got introduced to 3D Studio Max, and my whole perspective of things changed. Like, you know, like I was so blown away by what was possible. And so yeah, I kind of got drawn more into the creative side of it. So I joined a course, a multimedia course. I did a short-term course, and then basically what happened is that after engineering, though I was giving interviews in certain companies, since I was an engineer, I was supposed to give interviews in certain software companies, just like the others do. I didn't give it too much of a thought. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But so when this happened, like I thought, okay, fine, why not try in this line? So I took a short-term course, like I told you, and then I was completely drawn into it. And I said, okay, fine, let me just try this course, this direction. So then I worked in a couple of small companies in South Bangalore, which included a startup of our own as well. And then we were doing small scale.
That video. Should I go there?
Do it if you know. Do it.
There's some disturbance, I think.
Yeah. So
oh, okay.
Yeah.
We were dealing mainly with small scale, medium scale works. And like I was telling, I was a generalist, and I was doing a bit of everything. And in 2008, I decided that I should specialize in something. And to me, animation was the most intriguing aspect in CG. May not necessarily be the same for everybody else, because to me, something needed to move in a believable way for it to look convincing. So that kind of added another level of challenge. So I kind of was very intrigued by animation. So I took up Animation Mentor, and I did an online course. Back then, there weren't many institutes around, you know, none of them offering quality education. So I did Animation Mentor, and then so all of this was happening without a thought of, you know, what all of this is going to lead into. And so that's I would say, I'll probably touch upon this a little later in our discussion, because I feel it kind of really set the foundation for my career. So yeah, post Animation Mentor, I was lucky that DreamWorks opened shop in Bangalore. So the DreamWorks dedicated unit. So I got in there in 2009, and I worked there for almost 8 years, around the time when I got to work with Gautam as well. So fantastic time those years. And then after DreamWorks, I moved to Framestore. I was there for about a year and a half. I tried out VFX animation, and that was fun too. And then 2018, DreamWorks called me back in the States. So I've been here with DreamWorks for the last 3 years. So yeah, the last 12 years has been an amazing exposure, like very, I mean, I got to meet such incredible artists and, getting to work with them daily and being inspired by what they do. It kind of keeps you going. And yeah, I hope I can share some of that with you guys today.
Sure. Great to hear about all that, Prashanth.
My pleasure.
So since this is we are totally focusing on animation, what was the one thing about animation you decided to choose, not modeling, not texturing? Okay, I want to do just something where I want to do when I want to deal with some movements or make a character walk. What was it? What was that?
So we were doing a small pilot, I remember, for a client when we had our startup. And then there was a bird rig.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I didn't know. I mean, basically, like I was telling you, a generalist, as in I would just probably know how to make, keyframes and move things. And, I was doing a bit of everything. But then there was something about that, the bird, the flying cycle that I did, that I kind of got really drawn into it. Like, I was already starting to think, hey, wait, the wings are flapping, so I don't think it can keep going down. It has to go up. Stuff like that I started to reason. I mean, not that I was really good at it, but my mind was already setting into that groove of thinking in terms of movement. And I was so drawn into it that I started to do more tests in animation and, on my own, like just, I mean, however crappy it was, but it's just that I was intrigued and very fascinated by it. I just wanted to keep doing that over and over again. There was no, question of being judged or anything of that sort. And I was like, just a free spirit, just exploring it all by myself. And that's kind of what prompted me to take it up seriously. Like there weren't many universities around, so I chose Animation Mentor.
Oh.
But yeah, if you the answer to your question was that pilot, perhaps, like, and a few tests that followed.
Yeah, so I've seen, like, it sort of comes naturally to people when they're exploring in 3D, and that the movement which you see on the screen really draws you, and you want to manipulate that movement so that at the end it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, and then you feel a power that that with just this movement you're able to control people's emotion. So again, definitely that has a work process through it. You're not just blindly diving into it and experimenting with stuff. So let's come on to that work process and just so that we can more define how you go about a particular shot when you pick up any like your bird cycle which you were talking about.
Sure. I actually have a set of clips that some of a segment of work that I did on Boss Baby 2. So I was thinking I'd pull those up and just take you like through the process. Like, I mean, I'm not going to get into the depths of how I animated, but probably give an insight to the students as to how you start off, and then, I mean, kind of mimicking a real life scenario where you're cast on some shots, and then how you take it to the final stages.
Yes, great. That makes sense. Yeah, that's
okay.
What the students need to see. That
cool. Just a moment.
Important to them. Yeah.
Sure. So. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
And you're seeing the blank screen, right?
No, I can see a mountain in the ocean.
Yeah, you're seeing my cursor as well, right?
Yes, I can see the cursor.
Yeah, just a moment. I think yeah, that's the one. So so before I start, I just want to give you a quick background of what this is. It's a small section of shots that I animated on Boss Baby 2. Basically, I don't know how many of you watched this movie. I don't know if it even released in India. But this section happens when there is this baby Armstrong, who's the antagonist, and then we have Boss Baby, who is our protagonist. And basically, Armstrong is taking Boss, and he's showing how he's converted babies to be able to code and to be able to do like crazy things, like writing apps and all of that stuff. And he's taking him around this lab that he's built, and boss is seeing all of that, and he's like bamboozled by what he's seeing, like, and he thinks that for a moment that this guy is an absolute genius and he's making money out of it. So he guesses that he's making millions of dollars, and then Armstrong corrects him saying, no, it's billions. But then he says, some things are more important than money. So that's the section. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just mimic a real life scenario as to how it all starts as an animator. I mean, for us as an animator, and then how we take it through to the different stages. So I'm going to make it quick because I don't think we have too much of time. So the first step is your production department informs you as to what shot you're going to get cast on. And basically that's a sequence number and a shot number, and in different places it's different. And then you get to see something called an editorial of the shots that you're going to work on. So when I was cast on the shot, so I get a mail from production. They say, hey, Prashanth, you're being put onto the sequence and these are your shot numbers. So then here's a link of the editorial. So they give me a link, and that basically leads me to this clip, which I'm going to play right now. Oops. Are you able to see this?
Yes, we can.
So if I make it,
bigger. Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to make it.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm showing you right now is the layout version. A layout is something that, if for people who are not familiar, is it basically tells you, the layout published basically tells you that your shot is ready for you to animate. It has information on your scene composition, your cameras, your character placements, and basic storytelling beats and props in the scene. So looking at that, I get an idea as to what the shot is. So this is happening even before I'm getting launched on the shot by the director. So that's going to be the first important major step where, the director is going to launch the animator saying that, hey, this is what I want from the shot. So before I even get the launch from the director, I have an opportunity to see this. So let me just play this.
Billions. Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
So it's a small section. Were you able to hear this without any problem?
Yes, we were able to.
Okay, great. So so what happens is that when we get the shot, we get some time to prepare ourselves for the launch. So we get this probably a day or a couple of days before we get the launch, so that we have some time to prep up for some questions that we can ask the director. So in this case, my mind is already starting to think, okay, what can I ask the director, and what's the launch going to be like? What are the things that I can clarify? Ideally, you would want to hear him out first, the director, as to what he expecting from the shot, and what's the mood that he expects and things like that. But there are certain things that I'm concerned of as well. For example, when I look at these shots, as an animator, these are the questions that are popping into my mind.
Billions.
So there are 3 shots, right? So this is the second shot.
Yeah, but
that's the third shot. And it's basically between the 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So there are quite a few actions happening over here. Like, he's first probably licking the last bit of ice cream from that dish or whatever. And then he throws that off. So I'm recording, I'm understanding all these things as I'm seeing this. And then he pulls up popsicles and then he separates them. And then he stuffs one into boss's mouth. So right away, this first shot, there's so many things happening. Plus he's also talking. And the first thought that came into my mind is like, perhaps there's a little too much happening, because he's leaning back, and then he comes forward, he throws the ball, he goes back, and then he leans forward again and picks up the popsicles, and then he separates them and he stuffs them. So my mind is already starting to think, hey, can I simplify this? All right. And then coming to the next shot, it's a classic moment of it's a classic moment of somebody being in awe and all in in shock. So no matter anything gets done to you, you're just in that dazed state where your eyes are just wide open, and anybody can do anything. They can slap you or anything. You're just wonderstruck.
Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
And then basically the third shot to me is highlighting how high-handed Armstrong is compared to Boss. Basically Boss is oh, you're the best, sort of a thing. And this guy is basically schooling him hey, this is how you do it, sort of a thing. So
okay, so just let me comment very quick. Just like to summarize. So generally, whenever you know assign a shot, it just comes through production that that hey Prashant, we got 3 shots for you. So for apart from that, there's no briefing about the shot. They're just this is this shot. You have to just go through the shot, and you have to watch the shot in context, like what happens previous to the shot and what happens next to the shot, and you come back to the shot and you come up with questions, come up with doubts. Okay, how am I going to animate it? Because there are certain ideas which you have may work for you, but director has some other vision. So as an animator, you have to go through the shot again, come up with clear the questions which can clarify how you want to approach it. And with those questions, I personally I would just write it down, and then whenever we have. So when was the point, Prashant, where you discuss this with the director?
So yeah, so basically, basically we usually sometimes have a pre-launch meeting, but in this case it was not the case. Like pre-launches happen for certain very complicated sequences where the animators are really need to work in tandem because a lot of connectivity between the shots and like character dependencies and things like that. So in this case it was not so basically right after the launch. Right after the casting mail that I got from production, I got a couple of days to prep up, and I think in 2 days' time I had I had a Google Meet calendar invite where I had to be present and be present with my questions. So when I showed this to when the director launched me on this, first I hear him out, and he said that basically the summary of this whole thing is Armstrong is like super high-handed, and he's showing boss, like who's the boss. Because the sequence, the stuff that happens prior to this also leads into this whole bit where it really builds up to this fact that Armstrong is like, this crazy genius who's been doing all these things. So, and then, yeah, that basically was it. So sometimes in a launch, the director will not tell you, okay, I want him to do this and then that, and then I want him to go back and his arm should come here. No, they would just be giving you a very broad stroke note on what this bit is. And to me, the launch was more or less on those lines, like, because he never told me about, okay, he's going to throw this dish and then he's going to pick up popsicles and stuff, because it was all obviously, it was obvious right away.
Yes.
Billions.
And then...
Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
Yeah, so the gist of it was just on the lines what I mentioned. And although I don't remember clearly, perhaps there could have been more. It's been more than a year since this happened. But I remember asking the questions to him. So my first question was, hey, his name is Tom. Unfortunately, I was not able to get the recordings. I was planning to do that. That would have been fun, but unfortunately, that was not available.
Yeah, it would have been.
It would have been fun to see what he actually launches me as.
True. I didn't know that whether they give the recording for the launch as well out, because we never had.
It's recorded. It's usually recorded. All of them are recorded, but they're archived.
They give it out as well, that one?
No, they don't. But I was trying to see if I could be a little sneaky. Okay. But it's not. I mean, because you already have your stuff on the reel. But I mean, please don't quote me on this.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, my questions were to Tom were like I asked him, hey Tom, there are too many things happening. So I see him throwing the bowl, and then he's reaching forward. He starts backward, he goes forward, then he goes back, and then pulls up the popsicles. He goes forward and
billions,
and then he's talking and he's laughing and all that. So I was thinking, if you can simplify this, is that something that I should be approaching it on the lines? So he says, yes, that's fine. I mean, if you can figure out a way that in which you can establish all these points but still keep it simplified, that'll be great. So I said, okay, great. So I was in the same page. And then this, again, in this shot, I asked him, are we going to play a boss in a way that he's completely dazed, like, he just has the staring, he's just staring at in wonder. And he says, yeah, that sounds good. And then in this one, I didn't have any specific question because, it was more or less straightforward. It's more dependent on, how I animate and the poses that I come up with. So that's the layout pass. Let me know how I'm doing with time. Like, I don't want to be.
Yeah, we have time.
So then I go into blocking. Is this opening here?
Could you just briefly explain blocking as well?
So blocking is means different things to different people, but to understand it the simplest way, you basically communicate the main story beats, the main storytelling poses, and certain times you kind of go a little further. In this case, I've gone a little further because and I usually tend to do that. Like in my blocking, I don't just present poses, but sometimes I go further. I just it's more or less like you can't call it a spline pass, but I'm holding poses and then I'm just letting the computer do the transitions instead of stepping. So basically, to summarize, blocking is just main key poses that tell the story, and also are timed according to the actions. And you have breakdowns and in-betweens in certain places that really require it. I mean, it again depends on the kind of shots that you're doing. And also some people block rough, some people block more detailed. Like if you were to really, some people I see really push their poses, like, their finger poses and, everything in the face, and they make it very appealing right away. That's one way of doing it. It sells as well. It sells a shot. And some people are very rough in a way that they just have rough poses and they're going to be refining it further. And in which way they can accommodate more in their blocking, so perhaps more poses or, doing more things.
Yeah.
So mine is, I don't know. I mean, mine is perhaps somewhere in between. So I don't know. Was that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So should I play my blocking?
Sure.
Great. So like I said, I am thinking of ideas. In fact, sorry, can I just really quickly pull that previous pass once again? Because I just wanted to share what I'm thinking before I block.
Yeah.
So basically seeing this layout, of course, this question about, what things need to be as, and, and all of that getting clarified by the director is one thing. But then I also need to think of the poses, like, how do I make this movement really entertaining and fun? I right away know that this bit can be fun, very baby-like, because they're playing the baby in Armstrong here. Like, he's more like a baby. He's like eating ice cream, and babies have a particular way, like, they just completely, you completely cover their face with the bowl, like my daughter does it, and that's kind of what it is over here. So I thought that this pose for sure can be something fun, and my mind is already starting to think, okay, fine, what fun poses can I think of? And then here, like I said, right, like my way of solving this whole forward backward thing, that's in my mind. So then I think, okay, fine, what about like if I, instead of reaching the popsicles, reaching down for the popsicles, if I can simplify it. So that's one thing in my mind. So, and all of these are simple, like, straightforward. And this shot is basically based on the performance of, how you do it. Like different ways have different people have different ways of interpreting it. So with that said, I'll play the blocking. For some reason, it's playing in this way. So.
Oh, billions. Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
So that was my blocking pass.
Looks great.
Like I said, I'm trying to have fun with this pose. Like, obviously, it's not working still. There's a lot of crashing happening. And I thought it'll be fun to even just push his glasses up and like this. And I was even thinking that I could completely, crash it into his mouth. So it kind of, you see the cheeks coming out of it. But I don't think we had the budget to do all of that, like, in terms of CFX's involvement and all that.
True. And
we could go only.
And rigs would not have that kind of flexibility as well. Because
I could have done some stuff with sculptors, but then, yeah. But it again depends on, what timelines are there and how the departments work.
Yes.
So yeah, that was my first pose. And I kind of even thought it'd be fun to have his legs up as well, because, it's more baby-like.
True.
And that's the baby part. So that's my way of solving this popsicle thing. So he doesn't reach out, but instead his legs bring it up. So that way, what I'm doing is I'm keeping his head. Are you seeing my mouse pointer?
Yes, I can see. We can see.
Yeah, that way I'm keeping his head stable in screen space around here.
Yes.
So, you can at least focus on him and he doesn't like do too much of back and forth. And so that was one main pose. If it's blocking, like if you were to take it pose by pose, that's one main pose. And then I would say probably this is another moment where, you know, perhaps that could be another pose.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be another pose.
Yes.
But I'm kind of going a little into the shot, like not exactly blocking, but I'm just slowly starting to show how transitions happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of helps me because I can move quicker through the shots.
Yeah. Also, if you show a little bit more information to the director, like you said, transitions.
Yeah, exactly.
So director also knows that, okay, this is something he's going for. So he's now, sitting there in the dark and, waiting for the next pass. And then after he sees that flushed out version, he gives you more notes. So it's better to give something more, little more for blocking. So I agree with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also the time, like, even though I'm here and, you have director available, but their time is usually like very, very, they usually, you barely get a half an hour window or a 1 hour window. So you need to make sure that you make most out of that.
Yes.
So I try to communicate as much as possible.
Yes.
So, and then reaching out for the popsicles could be one pose. And although I'm just kind of doing it very roughly over here. And then this is one other pose.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like his expression as well, right? Like he's acting all high-handed, like that lidded feeling where his eyebrow is up, the lids are down, and looking through the corner of his eye, like, already kind of sets that kind of a expression.
Looks really cute. Really.
And then this guy, I was like really playing him like with round eyes, like just dazed. And in fact, this is what I was wanting to pitch, like, just not do anything, just the ice cream just goes in, just the eyes just stay the same way. And again, I was wanting to make sure that I'm here. If you see, it's not very clear, like it's weak. The way he's reaching, he's going towards boss. Towards the end, it's very very rough. Okay. It's not pushed. Mm-hmm. But then here, I have a clear indication of the push into the mouth. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there are portions that are weak in the blocking, and a lot of things you'll see that it will improve.
Yes.
And then this is, it's stupid to talk about this, but the sound was such that if you play the sound, it's such that, I mean, my daughter eats lollipop and ice cream like that. Like, she doesn't always have this wide open mouth and do that, but it's more like, with that narrow mouth. So I tried that there. It didn't go well. I mean, when I showed it to, I'll tell you what the feedback I got. But and then again here, I was trying to have him settle into the school pose where a leg on top of the other, and and then there's arm on the armrest, backrest or whatever. And again, the way he looks at him, like the angle to me is very important. Like looking at someone this way, it really shows that you're in authority. Mm-hmm. And
are more important than money.
So I'm just going to play it one more time.
Billions. Oh yeah. Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
So yeah, that's my blocking.
Looks great, really nice, really nice.
So the feedback I got was that he needs to be high on sugar. So when I showed this to Tom, he said, Armstrong needs to be high on sugar. Like, just remember, because see, this is what happens. Sometimes in the launch, you don't get everything, but some main important point you get as a reaction to what you do. So when Tom saw this, he felt that it's all good, the right intention, but he needs to be more hyper, like, he needs to be hyper as in like, he needs to be a little more broader in his actions. And when he says, but, sorry, I'm going to pull it up again. Let me know if I'm slow, okay? Like I can.
Yes, yeah, good.
So, for example, Tom said that
billions.
This is fine. He just wanted it to be a little more brighter in the end. Like, right now I was playing him being high-handed, but he wanted him to be a little more, like, more billions sort of a thing.
Okay. So he was, you're trying to play him as a smug that, okay, I've got it under control and I'm better and all that. So essentially that is the subtext you're going to play your animation to, but subtext changed from the director. Now he wants him to be more high on sugar or like more bright.
Yeah. I mean, that remains as well, but there's probably a way that there's the place where both of them can be included in the performance. So that's what I was searching.
Oh.
So this one, he felt there needs to be a small reaction on the eye as well. So which we tried to, me and my supervisor, we tried to sell, hey, wouldn't it be fun to just have him just like that, like just his mouth? He says, this is good, but let's try that as well. So, you know, so that kind of is an indication saying that I should try that as well instead.
Yeah.
And then this he felt was low in energy. He felt here he could be really high on sugar.
Yeah, but some things are more important.
Like, you know, but he could really like, you know, shoot up like, but some things are more, and, you know, he could be a little more engaged and more pushed. So you will see in my anim pass, I include those.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, like you said in the briefing, they will not mention like, you know, notes like this. And when they see the animation, they, you know, even though, you know, it looks good, they want to see another version. And, you know, director may not like it or may like it, but it's better for them to, you know, have a pushed version as well to see and, you know, compare it, you know, which sells or which subtext sells better. So
yeah, totally.
That's why they ask for, you know, a different variation in mind. So so it's a part of, you know, a job as an animator's job to, you know, constantly revise or, you know, work on the notes, because not like you are wrong, it's just that they want to see another version for that. So
and sometimes they are kind of clear on it. In fact in this case, I remember Tom was almost sure, because, you know, they are like, he's a 2D animator and he's had a lot of experience in the past. So basically his judgment of things, we really, you know, go with it. So
yes,
it also can be taken in that way. Like there are times when a director would want to try something, but then there are times when you right away can relate to it, saying that, hey, yeah, perhaps this could be pushed. Yeah, I could have, you know, done this.
yes.
So more on those lines as well. So
yeah, because sometimes they're working so closely with the storyboard artists.
Right.
Storyboard artists have some expressions they really like, and, you know, they want the animators to, you know, stick to that, because they've already sold the director to that expression. So, you know, that is another scenario.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so this is my animation pass. So you will see that portions of this will improve in this, because I felt that this stage really it improved further from what it was.
Billions. Billion. Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
So
billions. Billion. Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
So you can see I'm really pushing this.
Yeah.
I'm really pushing the squashiness and stretch of this whole thing, like like really dragging the tongue. And then I was thinking of having him look at Boss right through that, but then it was hard because that angle was not letting me do it. So it's like basically just going up. And I'm also trying to make sure that you know, I'm having a clear path of this plate going back.
Yeah.
And then I'm including a lot of squash and stretch in the body, because, you know, that's something that was the nature of the show. Like these guys are like very jiggly and very squashy, stretchy kind of rigs, and something I really enjoy. So you can see that I'm through this whole laughing bit. There's a lot of compression, expansion happening, and I'm even doing that with the shoulder, and in a way that I'm offsetting things as well. And again, I don't want all of the things to happen at the same time. So the throw of the plate happens, and then the legs come up, and then he settles down a little towards the back, and then his hand comes up to grab the ice cream. And then here I'm doing something crazy. If you see this elbow, it's like broken, like, but I'm doing that for that smear frame. So if you see this point on screen, and then where his finger finishes, they're very close in terms of spacing. So it's my way of just faking that smear frame. So if you play it fast, it kind of gives you that feeling of, you know, it doesn't pop out, but at the same time, it kind of adds to that fast spacing. The spacing is there. So I'm thinking of all these things in the anim pass.
Billion.
And again, when he says billions, I have the correction of the facial expression over here is more brighter. And as he comes closer, again, I'm making sure that I'm doing the right thing with his hand. Now it's clearly going back as an anticipation. But then again, having him go, yeah.
Yes.
In a way that it hooks up with the next shot.
Okay, so we anticipates here in this shot, and in the next shot it hooks up perfectly.
Yeah.
Like he's showing it. Yeah.
And then I also am ending with this expression, which is kind of on the lines of what. So basically, these are the calls that I'm taking. What I can do, where I should put these ideas for it to sell it to Tom. So Tom will not say, I want it here. I want. He'll not say that I want it here, there. He probably needed sprinkled in a few places throughout this whole performance. Where you do it, how effectively it plays in the animation, and how well done it is all left to you. So I chose these moments, making him more goofy and more brighter here. And then here I have this. I don't know if I kept this later on, but then you have this blink happening, and he needed a small expression on the eyes, and then the cheeks to puff. So I have all of that. And I added a small pass on lip sync, and even in this shot as well. Billions. And then the next one.
Yeah, but
he really shoots up when he says.
Yes, I see that. Yeah. Now earlier he was just going back. Now he shoots up. Yeah.
So I had to forego one of the idea, that is my leg, one on top of the other, and this is more baby-like. When he shoots up, basically in the next pass you'll see a little more clearer. But his legs are basically shot up. His arms are up. It's like a pat, and then he comes down. So I had to forego the idea of the leg being on top of the other. So he sits more like a baby here, right through, but his arm is still doing the same thing. And the rest of the performance is more pushed.
Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
Like he comes more further, more important than money. You see him coming more.
Yeah, it's coming more closer. Yes, he comes.
Yeah. So that's my anim pass, and I think I got an approval on these. Usually in an anim pass, you get an approval from the director. So what happens is that when you present it to Tom, I say that, hey Tom, I fixed these things from last time. I pushed the expressions. Let me know what you think, and hopefully boss is playing better too. And let me know your feedback. So then he looks at it and he says, okay, if he has anything, he'll let you know. If not, he will say, hey, this looks great. So I think in this case, I think he just approved it. Perhaps, I don't remember, maybe one or two small notes, but usually in an anim pass, it gets approved. But to reach the stage, I would have done probably another 2 passes in the middle, probably shown it to my supervisor, and then he would have given me some other notes, say, push this expression, let's push the asymmetry here, push the hand poses. And then my final animation is this.
Yeah, so just let me come in middle here. So guys, getting your shop approved in 3 or 4 passes is a really big deal, because sometimes you get 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 passes and all. So that shows that how great an animator he is. So it looks really amazing. It is fun, and the job of the animator is to solve problems. So he was solving problems with the ice cream stick. He was solving problem of how is he going to throw and all that. Plus solving problems, also he wants to make it entertaining and not too much of distraction. So he's not having multiple ideas around. Okay, what he wants to show is what he wants to. It's what he's animating and what he's doing. So the director, when he sees that, he sees simplicity, he sees entertainment, and he approves the shot. That is what important. To the director is. Great. So carry on, Prashanth.
Yeah, no, I was about to say. In fact, when you say that not all animators can do it, in fact, it's the norm right now, because in fact the timelines have shrunk so much. I don't mean to say it in a bad way, but our tools have gotten more advanced. So production cannot really afford, somehow it will just sail through, the shot will sail through. But it's again, it's left to you as to how much of care you put in and how much of love you put into shots.
Yes.
I can just do a very ordinary job as well. I just put, he asked it here, I just put it here. It's just gonna go. Because I adjust the notes, it should be fine. And you show the shots to the director, he says, yeah, it looked good.
Yes.
Yeah, your shot got approved. Yeah. You can be happy with that, or you can really put more love and care into it and really be satisfied. I think to me as an animator or an artist, your satisfaction is more important than anybody else. Trust me.
Yes, yes, true.
like unless you're satisfied and somebody else sees a shot, says, hey, this is working fine, man, this is perfect, but something inside is like bothering you, you will never be happy. So
yes, I've been in that stage, and I've also seen people working on the shot which is already approved. At least one more day they work on it, or 2 more days, and we're like, oh, it's approved, why are you wasting time on that? No, there's something which I'm not so happy with that. So they're essentially not changing the entire acting, they're just focusing on tidbits here and there, just the nuances of it.
Art is never finished, it's only abandoned. So
yeah.
So this is my final animation.
Yeah.
Billions. Billions. Yeah, but some things are more important than money. Billions. Billions. Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
So in this, I'm kind of going a little further with all of that was approved. So just making sure my arcs are playing. I mean, I'm also making sure every frame, I don't know how successful have been, but it's impossible at times. But I try to make sure that your shapes in the hands, like or every silhouette is playing fine, and that there are no loopholes. Like there are times when you can just say, hey, it's playing well in motion, it's fine. But like for example, poses like these, the hand poses, you barely ever see it in the shot, like because you're seeing him, but then you put in care to sculpt them properly. And then certain small things, like with, for example, the leg going on top. So for example, this leg goes down first, and then this leg settles on top, and there's a small bit of overlap and stuff like that. I mean, I'm just pointing something that's very
no, it's good. It's good because we are all studying students here, and it's great that you're pointing those things out. That even they realize now that we cannot ignore like anything, anything to computer, anything to to chance. Like you said, every frame has to be kind of perfect, because for animators, like I keep telling, that animation is just one pose after the other pose, so every pose is like a perfectly drawn drawing as an animator. So okay, this is a main key pose, this is another main key pose, and how you're going to the main key pose through breakdowns. You do not leave breakdowns to chance. All breakdowns, however the hand is going, you have control on all finger positions also. So you have to make sure that any time anyone pauses your shot on any other frame, that frame has to be appealing, frame has to tell a story. So that's what Prashanth is doing here.
Absolutely, yeah. And trying to break the, like perhaps in this one he's holding this way with his pinky out.
Yes.
And something else I was wanting to tell you. The other thing with this guy was specific, like character specific things might also come up. Like for example, in this guy, we had to animate even the collar, because animate as in like we had to pose the collar. Okay. So you get a separate set of design notes from your character lead, right? So when you are animating a character, like every character has a lead, and so for this, the character lead will make sure that the character is closer, as close as possible to the the character designs that came out, and certain things that they're trying to establish with this. For him, it was more of this kind of a shape where his cheeks are very chubby, and you have this, how do you put it across, like almost like a cone. He's like and that has to be like his silhouette more or less has to be on those lines in any angle. So we would do a pass of puffing up his cheeks, and then in doing that, the collar would crash, and then we had to manually pull it out and pose the collar. Although we were not animating it every frame, but we were putting the main poses, and then character effects would take that, and then they would run their own bit and then make it smooth.
Yeah. The lip sync looks really, really amazing. I mean, the whole facial stuff, because it it has a unique set of upper lips, and
exactly that's I was about to get to that. So this, what you're seeing is is something that we were trying to achieve with this guy, where his upper lip kind of overlaps, and you see this kind of you'll see that his upper lip sticks out of the silhouette of the mouth, like, it's something that we were trying to really pull out.
Mhm.
And again, this is based on some of the designs, the earlier designs, and Tom also was very keen on this kind of a treatment to his lip sync. Even here, everywhere you see him, it's kind of overdone, I would say, looking back, but it
Yes.
still adds a little bit of charm to it, like.
Yes.
And that was kind of like, even here, I would say, yeah, I'm doing it there as well.
Hmm.
But all of these lip sync shapes were like really sculpted to, because you have a lip sync library, but then just plugging it in won't work all the time. Like, you would probably have that as a base, a foundation, and then sculpt it on top of it. As in, it's not going to, not to deal with dots and all of that stuff, like, secondary controls,
Mhm.
mainly the primary controls, but just making it appealing, playing it well to camera.
Mhm.
So those are the kind of things.
Yeah.
So that was my final animation. And, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that that was specific to these shots.
I have one question about
Sure.
since this this is like you're talking about the upper lip, and so this design is sort of unique, not like Boss Baby, which is like more on a classical side. So this is sort of a unique design, and the expressions and all which you're using, it looks very appealing. So were you drawing those ones, or you taking reference from somewhere, like for those expressions and all that?
No drawings. I cannot draw this well. So basically, you have a character sheet. So every project comes, I'm sure this is the case with many of the studios as well. We have something like a wiki. Right? If you remember, we used to have a wiki of.
Yes.
So where you have a complete description of each of the characters, their behavior, their mannerisms, and and then more rig specific points as to how you need to use that rig, and what are the do's and don'ts, and so basically, along with that also comes a set of drawings that I think it's the character designer and also sometimes the supervising animator who would draw certain poses, and he would pose the character in certain ways. So you kind of have a library of all of that, and it's very important that you kind of go through it, because you'll not be doing the exact same poses, but you'll know how this guy behaves, and you can kind of create a mental picture of what this guy is like. You can imagine him doing certain things. So that's kind of where you should be aiming to reach. So yeah, you kind of know that, hey, in this pose, maybe perhaps this expression, maybe the one with his eyes to the side could work, or maybe his talking his mouth to one side could work, or something like that.
Yes.
So all of that was based on stuff that was in the wiki, and also from the interactions with the soup.
Okay. So that leads to one more question is, do you need to know how to draw to be a good animator?
Not necessarily, but understanding and appreciating the difference between a good drawing and a bad drawing is something very important. I feel, because as you grow as an animator, and as you start to appreciate things further, you know that a lot of it is coming from the appeal in the poses, and there's a certain design language that goes behind certain poses, and it all emanates from a drawing, actually. So you have this whole language of the straight versus curved that we used to talk about, right? And like in penguins and all. And making one side simple, the other side complicated, and contrasting lines. And so all of what we do is kind of a derivative of all of these basic principles, I would say. So if you start to identify that in drawings, and if you can, even though you cannot draw, if you can at least identify those in drawings and start to appreciate those, you can start to bring them into your animation as well. So identifying it and appreciating it is the first step. and drawing, not necessarily. Like, yeah, I mean, I cannot draw well, and a lot of great animators here in DreamWorks, they don't draw well. So
yeah. Even I worked, I mean, in DDU, we work with a lot of good animators, but they do not draw well. But like you said, they have the understanding of all the principles of a good drawing. Huh? So we'll definitely go through all that in your next semester when we are talking about poses and all. So like he said, straight against curve, or still having a clear silhouettes and balancing your drawing. It's not off balance. All those principles are important. Even though you do not draw, whenever you're making a pose in 3D, if you're aware of this principle, you can have a better pose. Good. Yeah. So anything else on this?
this is the final lighting pass. If you guys wanted to have a
Yes.
look at it. This
Also,
is what
one more thing.
plays in the movie. Sure.
Yeah. So, I always put a stress on, using reference for your acting, be it bouncing ball or be it, any mechanical shot, body mechanic shot you want to do. How important is it, using reference, and how widely it is used? Guys, can you just keep, yeah. Sorry. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so keep it
reference.
down. So the thing is, importance of reference. So everyone knows what, when I talk about reference, what does it mean? Yeah. So like if you're drawing a ball also, so you take a reference from a ball from the internet, and you draw the ball. So same thing, you're doing a character, you take a character, and same thing when you're moving, like you're animating. So like, for example, you're animating a jump. So you actually film yourself jumping from somewhere and use that as a reference for your animation. So that's what we mean by reference. So I let Prashanth elaborate on that. Yeah, please do.
Wait, just a moment. So in this one, right, I actually, my reference was very, very restrained. Like, I don't think I have it over here, unfortunately. But yes, in fact, all my references are stored in the folder at work, so I don't have access to all that. But yes, reference is super important. Though I used to be a strong believer of, not a strong believer. I would think, wait, reference is important, but then it's okay if I animate without the reference as well. But then I think of late, it's kind of become more of an auspicious thing to do. That you should have a reference in the beginning. It at least sets you in the right path.
Yes.
Regardless of where you go from there. Like I'm not a person who will like very strictly follow my reference to the T, like till the end. No, because I want my process to be more of an exploration as I keep going.
Yes.
Otherwise,
more
it's not
spontaneous. Yes.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's like there's no fun in locking down your performance right away at the beginning, and then the rest of your animation process is just like a laborious job of copying this, pasting. I mean, doing your animation. That's one way of doing it. Like if you were doing some live action show, and if you were like my time at Frame Store. I know people who used to do that, use their reference. I mean, that's basically what works, because you don't have too much of idea putting and all of that stuff. So that works in such situations. But in this case, I want my mind to be free. Like it can throw in ideas anytime, and I can try to accommodate and incorporate that, and probably even scrap out my references if required. Just making sure, trying to always think what's the best solution for the shot. And so that is the foremost. My reference almost will never ever have it right away, like unless I do something crazy in my acting reference. I know for sure that this is a good foundation, but then my blocking is going to be built on this, and it's going to evolve from here.
Yes.
And there are times when I just follow it the way it is. I can show you one shot later on. There's a girl who's counting elements of the periodic table, like she's doing this, and basically it doesn't involve too much of thinking out of the box for me as an animator. I need to do it in a way that it looks like she's doing this. So certain actions need to look authentic.
Yes.
And this looks authentic because of the way I'm doing this counting, and there's a particular way my hands are moving and all that stuff. So that I probably use reference the way it is. Like I just do it in twos. Like just use the same live action whatever I have, put it on the rig and push the poses a little bit more, and that's it.
Yes.
But in this, I remember my reference was very restrained. Like, it was not, I was going through some, it was a very dark period for me. I lost my cousin around this time when I was blocking the shot. This was last year, around August, end of August last year. He died of cancer, and it was a sad time. Like, I was not able to shoot reference in the right spirit, right? Like, I had to show the blocking of this. And there were a lot of emotions, and you cannot really be yourself when such a thing happens. So my reference was not all that good for this one. But the reason I showed these shots was also because of the improvements that it went through. Like, my first pass was like, yeah, it's there, but then the next one you could see the progress, and then it kept going up. So I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, definitely did. Yeah, definitely. Because I also came from a point of view, like you said, initially I was, restricted to, using reference. And then later on, I sort of opened up to the idea of, let's shoot a reference and see where it goes. It gives you the whole picture, and then you decide, what parts you want to pick from there and what parts you want to eliminate and which parts you want to add on to. Yeah.
Absolutely. In certain shows, like, I didn't get to work on How to Train Your Dragon or Crude for that matter. Like, it's very, the characters are also very grounded, very real life like. Yes. So in such cases, your reference works like really well. Like, there are times when, it also depends on how good an actor you are. Like, I'm not a good actor, and there are certain people who can really act well. Like, not that they're good actors, but people over here, especially the cultural, sorry, I'm not deviating the conversation, but
no.
Culturally different backgrounds are there, right? Like, I'm an Indian, and I know what this means, but but somebody here cannot understand that. Or I know what this is, but here they cannot understand. So here culturally different people are there, and then they're acting. Sometimes when I see their reference, I see that that's it. They just need to animate it. That's it. They got it right away.
Yes.
Because to me, sometimes it's difficult to get that. But certain things about the way I act in an act is more inherent to me than anybody else.
Yes.
So, and my time here in Reworks, or for that matter in Framestore, has been a constant process of understanding the sensibilities of how different people emote, and me trying to get to that zone. So that's the way it is. So it's a challenge in itself.
Yeah. So that was one of my questions, which you already answered, because as an animator, do you have to be a good actor? It's not essentially. You in the front of the camera, you may not be able to act perfectly, but when you're behind your system, and you can do good acting choices, and you can make your shot really good. But you do not have to essentially act, because like even I have worked with people who are great animators, terrible actors. Like, for example, me. I remember you were working in DreamWorks, and one of the Spanish guy came along. He said, "I'll help you act," because I said, "I'm terrible at acting. I can't do it." He said, "No, I'll help you out." So we went into the acting room, and he said, "Yeah, this is good. Let's try to do this." So we took multiple takes, and all takes were same.
Was this Tomas?
Yeah, it was Tomas. Yeah,
Tomas. Yeah.
So all takes were same. So
yeah,
he also sort of gave up on me, but the shot came out good. So it's like
yeah.
Prashanth, over to you, Prashanth.
Yeah, this is the final lit up version that you see in the movie.
Oh, billions. Yeah, but some things are more important than money.
Yes.
Oh, billions.
You can see that they've added, the coat, the animation on the coat, and it kind of adds to the.
Those sprinklers and
all of that.
Falling off the cup. Yeah. Yes.
So that was basically my first set of shots. This basically was the workflow that I was wanting to present.
Okay.
So basically what I wanted to tell the guys is that after you get an approval from the director at DreamWorks, it is such that they call it an auto final, where the director doesn't want to see it again. He says, "I'm fine with this shot. You guys can take it further and then polish it and finish it off." So then I go back, I work and I polish parts of the shot, like make the poses refined and, make sure that I'm getting everything the right way, and then show it to my supervisor. He might have some small, tiny notes, and then fix those things and then show it to the head of animation. He might say, yeah, this is just a small thing. And once everything is done, I hand it off. So that's when it's final. So that's when the shot goes off my plate. So, and then it goes to the different departments. CFX does the coat, animation, sim, and all of that. And then you have FX doing all that, the ice cream and the things splashing and all that things. And then finally, that's the lighting version that you saw.
So, great. So Prashanth, I think we are at the end of this session. Is it okay if we take Q&A session now?
Sure.
Yeah. So guys, you have any questions? You can just, Speak up.
What is the average short length when working in a studio like this?
Short length.
So the things that you showed today, it's like a 7-second clip. The average short length animators work on for itself.
Okay, so he's asking what is the average shot length, once you are, casted on a shot. So what is the average shot length you're given, for that period of time?
It's not that. It's based on the sequence and based on the time frames as well. Like, because this one was short. I mean, I can quickly play something that's like massive. This really killed me. I'll show you.
Yeah, sure.
Where's that? Yeah. So this bit, right? This is like 36 seconds long. And it's got multiple characters at the dining table and all of that stuff. And this happened when we just moved to work from home, and everything was new and things were not working, connectivity problems and all of that stuff. So I'm just going to play this.
Tim didn't wear glasses.
Oh, that's right.
Huh. Well, how about that? Hey, where is Tim anyway?
Tim and Ted are on a trip.
Together?
They're bonding.
Well, that's about time.
Yeah.
I just hope Tim's back in time for the pageant.
Why wouldn't he be there?
Tim time.
Tim time. Oh.
What's Tim time?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Marcos, Tim time is like a black hole where things like reality and being on time get lost.
So yeah, this whole section was cast to me. So it's really hard to predict or really say, because they're like, I think there's like 11 shots or something, 11 or 12 shots.
Oh, okay.
And then, so yeah, they give you the time frame. In this case, it was a little more lenient to me because we started working from home and were very understanding in the way they gave me time to finish the shot. And not just for me, for everybody else, it was a big mess. So more so for me, because I had to settle to, I was initially working on my laptop screen. Like, just imagine, like, doing everything on a laptop screen. It's like super hard and limiting. And then they provided us with one monitor. So somehow I was able to manage. And short lengths can be, the short answer, long answer short is, it can be anything. Basically,
it depends on the sequence.
It depends on the sequence. And
yes.
I don't know if he meant the quota, if he wanted to know the quota, or I don't know.
No, but he did. He got the answer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
To be in the position in Rework and the company, what kind of portfolio do you need?
Yeah, portfolio questions will come after we, finish the portfolio section, because after this we have a portfolio section.
So I have a question, like, what are the kinds of animation you do? What kinds of animation?
What kind of animations are you doing? So,
as in, I didn't get you. Like,
I can explain what. So what kind of animation? What he means that, are you doing gaming? Are you doing just production work? Are you doing commercials? All that?
Yeah, it's feature animation for feature films.
Okay, great. Yeah, one more. So is there a chance to rework a shot from the scratch?
Good question. Yeah, it sometimes happens. I mean, it happens more because of some editorial changes. Let's say the dialogue changed or something of that sort. These days, production deadlines are kind of getting shorter and shorter. I mean, narrower. So they really can't afford to even take a decision to even ask someone to start rework from scratch, or for whatever reasons. They will figure out a way. Somehow they'll figure out a way, but I've never seen that happen. A redo usually happens when like there's a change in the complete like the camera, or the whole staging changes, or the dialogue changes, something of that sort. But performance wise, I think, yeah, I mean, as an animator, you would almost never be that wrong, like that so way wrong that you had to completely redo the whole thing. There could be parts that could be used and then tweaked around, and then yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah.
From the blocking stage of the short that showed us to the final, just purely about animation, so long did it take?
Yeah, so blocking to animation, how long did you take roughly?
On this section that I showed?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, the first section.
I think these shots were over a span of 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks or something, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So blocking to animation, are you saying at the end of blocking till animation?
Yes.
About a week, maybe 7 working days.
Okay. 7 working days. Yeah.
Between 5 to 7 working days.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Anyone else wants to? Yeah. Tell me.
So, what animation scenes, how long does it take to animate?
How long does it take to animate?
One scene.
So like he said, those 3 shots he worked in 7 working days, or like 8 working days. So just depending on that, 1 or 2 days he will finish one shot, and 1 or 2
No.
days
Sorry, I mean, sorry if it's not correct. I mean, the 3 shots took me 3.5 weeks to finish.
Okay, 3 shots.
But the 7 days I was talking about is the time frame between blocking to animation pass.
Okay.
So this whole section took me about.
Yeah, so he'll show when he does blocking, he'll show to the director, then he will give him some notes, and then he will work on animation. So that period from blocking to animation, it takes 7 days. Okay. Yeah, Puneet.
Like, is there any possibility for department switches after a few years?
I didn't understand the question.
Department switch, like if we are doing modeling for first year something, it's not switch to animation.
Okay. So his question is, if I am an animator working there, what if I want to switch department to modeling? Right? Like, I've suddenly developed some interest in modeling. Will I be able to do that?
Where in a company like DreamWorks?
Short answer.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I think so, because but it again, it's not as simple like saying that, hey, can I join the modeling department? You need to have expertise, right? Like modeling is not just
because people who are working there are really, really good at their job.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to modeling department, you have to be really good to modeling department. Otherwise, there's no point going there and making your life miserable, because you're going to keep getting notes, and you're not going to get to work on good models. Maybe you're giving you a cup to model, and maybe giving you a remote to model. Yeah, so those are the things happens. Yeah, so Prashanth, so we move on to the break now. So we'll take a 10-15 minute break. You also freshen up, and then we'll move on to the portfolio section, and we'll talk more on the industry etiquette and counseling.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. So do I disconnect, or do I just?
No. Just switch off the your microphone and the camera.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see you guys in a bit.
Yeah. Cool. Yes. Welcome back, everyone. So let's begin the second session of today's event, which will be more on the discussion of the portfolio. Guys, again, keep it down and settle down. Otherwise, people from behind cannot hear you guys. So it will be more specifically on animation portfolios. So how do you make a good animation portfolio? It's a broader question, Prashant. Can you please put a light on that?
Yeah. So in my view, a good portfolio is how well you show your understanding of physics. And basically, I mean, a portfolio at various levels, you could look at it like as a beginner. I'm talking for, in terms of a beginner who's just graduated out of school or an institute and then looking out for a job. I'd probably say a strong understanding of physics, mechanics. I mean, like weight is the most important thing. You may have some very flamboyant ideas and a lot of things in mind, but then unless it's not done right with the right weight and by saying weight, it's a very broad way of explaining it. Like there are a lot of things that go along with it, like
Yes.
spacing is tied to it, timing is tied to it, everything is tied to it. So yeah, so that I think is very important. So when you were to do if you were to build a portfolio, I would say don't show something that is too basic, like a bouncing ball. Almost you would never add in a portfolio. I would say even to an entry level job, just show them what more you can do than a bouncing ball. Just because you've got a bounce really good, or for that matter, a jump. I mean, a jump, as long as you can add something other than the jump, is fine. Like say a guy, like a thief who's like who just jumps out of a window and he hops away. You could have an idea that is tagging along with your core display of mechanics. That's fine. So like I say, something like that. So you can avoid even walk cycles. I mean, I dare say that because some gaming companies, they need it and then it makes sense. But then if you were, it also depends on where you're applying. If you're applying for a company that does direct to, I mean, your TV series, or for that matter, feature animation, you'd almost never want to show a walk cycle, if you know what I'm trying to say, because they would probably need something that's more pantomime, more mechanics, and not advanced acting, but at least a semblance of what your understanding of acting is might help. So to make it even more simpler to understand, I would say probably a couple of exercises with mechanics without facial animation. It could include push and pull, but keep in mind when you're making a portfolio, push and pull exercises have been seen like a million times by the recruiter.
Yes.
If you want to get noticed by the recruiter, add something to it. Like, let it be a part of something else, or, some interest to it, but don't go overboard. Like, just don't make a huge story to show a small idea of a push and pull. But if you can, there are a lot of ways you can do it, like, make it interesting. You can get inspiration from your daily life. So just showcasing concepts of push and pull through certain interesting scenarios.
Yes.
Or for that matter, even if you were to do weight shifts, if you want to show weight shifts, I would almost never recommend you to never ever try just a character standing there and just doing a weight shift. But instead, if it's like a cop who's who's like probably just looking at his phone, or he's like something, and then he hears something and he just turns back and he's like all flustered. So this whole part of turning back is in itself is a test of mechanics, right? Like it's not something that's very general. Like, you wouldn't go like, okay, left, right, left. He wouldn't turn that way. There'd be a particular way he would turn. Like perhaps he jumps a little bit and then his left leg kicks up a little bit and then he does a hop and then he turns. The ideas like those, which are a little more evolved than your basic things that we are all used to. Because these things we used to do like 15, 20 years ago.
True. This is exactly what I keep telling students, the same thing, because you're going to do those push and pull weight lift exercises, and you do like you make a gray box or a gray sphere, and your character just walks, and you're standing on the grid and just picks the box, or put it somewhere. It is kind of boring because, like he said, they've already seen it a million times, like someone going and picking a box. So add a context to that, add a story to that. Why is he picking a box? Maybe he's a delivery guy, so he's delivering something. So he picks something from the vehicle and takes and puts it on somebody's doorstep. So you're showing push, you're showing pull, you're showing heavy weight lift through a story, and that story will really add an edge to your portfolio. So that's what
Exactly.
is also adding. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And then I think as an animator, it will propel you, because to me, it's something that will push me to do. Like if you were to tell me, hey, animate a weight shift, I'll be like, I cannot animate just a weight shift. But if there's an interesting idea to it, if I think of an interesting idea, that will kind of propel me to do it. Like, that's kind of my driving, the motivation to do it. So yeah, if you were to do, definitely think of ideas that are not super elaborate at the same time, which can fit into a simple exercise like that. And then you can try pantomime. Pantomime is something very important because it shows how well you can communicate without dialogue or real acting. And
Can you just give a brief about pantomime? What does it mean?
A pantomime is basically, how do I explain it? You're basically enacting out something without without actually saying or talking, or it could be anything. Like it could be more like a practical joke, or trying to pull something and trying to pick something up and then something happens, or you start off with one mood and then you end the shot in a different mood. Ideas like these, it really helps you build your understanding. Let me see if I can pull my. It's a horrible test, but I will show it if it's available on YouTube.
From you, Prashanth. Yeah, so the pantomime idea is like conveying something without facial expressions and without audience, without dialogue. So, for example, someone says, I need to really go to the washroom. So he's using dialogues and face to convey. But what if remove that aspect of dialogue and facial, and you use a root which does not have a face, and now you have to show that he really has to go to the washroom. So that becomes like more of a pantomime. So what we're doing is making it even tougher for animators, in a sense that you convey everything through body language. And with the body language, if you can understand what is happening, then you are successful with your shot.
Yeah, well put up. Yeah, perfect. I'm sorry. I don't know. For some reason, some of my clips are missing.
Okay.
So there was one thing what I did with, since I did Animation Mentor, we had this guy called, I don't remember the rig's name. I think it's freely available now.
Malcolm.
But not Malcolm. Malcolm is not. Stewart or Stewie. I think there was a version of. He just had 2 eyeballs. That's it. So there's no mouth, nothing. There's no facial features, and a full body, like arms and legs and all that. So I used that rig to create a pantomime shot where this guy walks into a museum, and he's like being all cocky, like just very disrespectful. Like there are swords kept, and he's like just messing around with everything. And then there's a mural or something to the side, and he just stylishly just leans onto it, and it just breaks and falls. And then that's where there's a switch in his mood, like in his behavior. So till then he was cocky and all that, but when that happens, when he breaks the mural, he's like, oh, I need to be careful. Like he sneaks out. So basically, pantomime in Animation Mentor was taught to us that way, like show a strong contrast in character mannerisms. So that's something that you guys can try, pantomime. And definitely Parkour is something that people do a lot. Again, it's interesting. A lot of different ways of doing it. If you can find out ways of doing Parkour, it's again making it interesting. And you can watch a lot of examples out there, but then doing something.
Can we, again briefly explain what is Parkour? Because I think few people may not.
Yeah, it's. I think it's. If you YouTube, let me just show you.
You guys know what is Parkour? Not everyone knows. Yeah. Good. So I think Prashanth will just show some examples. Now this is sort of a craze in the Western countries.
I'm trying to pull. Yeah. You're seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Wait. Basically stuff like this, right? I mean, there are other examples as well. Like, I think this is playing in slow motion for some reason. So,
okay, guys, keep it down 1 minute.
You know, ideas like these, like jumping and then doing these kind of crazy acrobatic things.
Ah, yes. Yes, I think they get it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So stuff like this is also something you can try. Let me just pull it. Yeah, that's one thing you can try.
Yes.
I mean, when it comes to weight, I have one example that I was wanting to show. So this is one thing that I'd done at the start of Kung Fu Panda 3. This kind of highlights some of the basics that you might need as a student, understanding of certain basics, where you talk about weight, talk about lead and follow, overlap, arcs, and all of those things. So I'm just going to play this.
Yeah.
So I'm so basically so yeah, this is me again trying to make my exercise more interesting, because if you had just asked me to just do some kung fu moves, I would be like, okay, yeah, there's that. I mean, it just doesn't really get me going.
Yes.
But when I had that idea, I could do this. My whole I was so invested in this exercise that I said, okay, fine, this part I'll do this, and then that will lead to this, which will finally lead to that that movement that I really like. And this was liked by quite a few of them. So yeah, here is I'm trying to show all of this was again based on reference. I'm stitching in different references over here because it was not available. All of it was not available in one clip.
Yes.
So this was one clip. I saw one person doing this, and then till around here, but then this punch or whatever is, I think, from somewhere else. And I'm trying to think of this as a overall choreography, like this whole shot.
Yes.
Where it shouldn't look like everything is like all mushy and, you know, like all archy, like, you know, there needs to be some kind of a rhythm to it. So, which is why I bring that sudden punch, that strong punch.
Yes.
And if you see, the arms are doing the arc, but at the same time, I'm making sure that they're doing different things. They're not moving at the same time. So, and then, like, you know, clean circular arc. Even the head is doing the same. And basically tracing it all. And then I do this sharp move. So here, I'm leading with my hand. My hand goes first, and my body reacts. Like, when you do this, it's usually your hand that punches and your body kind of takes the shock a little bit.
Yes.
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah, so you're adding overlap so that hand goes first and body comes.
Exactly. And then here is a clear indication of lead and follow. So it starts always from the eye. Of course, in a pantomime exercise, you cannot do all that, but then I'm trying to explain lead and follow. Like, starts from the eye. I'm doing a little bit with the shoulder already, with his screen right shoulder.
Yeah.
And then he leads through his head, and then his hands drag there, and then he goes up. So you're seeing the squash around here and then stretch.
Yes.
And then he goes up again, he squashes it a little bit and have this movement. I mean, looking back, I could have done quite a few things better, but then, and then again, this arm going down, I'm trying to hold, if you see the, again, this is all based on drag.
Yes.
So his body starts to go, but his arm is still there.
Yeah.
And then starting to drag it. And I don't want to drag it too much because I want him to settle into this pose. And again, like I'm leading with his head, and then you see a little bit on the shoulder. So again, lead and follow.
Yeah, even your chin is dragging a little. So what happens? Your head, eye goes there, and your chin is dragging, and the chin catches up. So you have overlap on the chin as well.
Yeah. And then again here I'm doing this big arc with his head, like it's going down and then up, because I wanted to make it like a big one. And at this point, he needs to feel very menacing, like very intimidating. Like I was going for that expression on his face. It's like something big is going to happen. Like build the anticipation, like as to something very badass that's going to happen, and then you do something totally different.
Yes.
So I'm starting to lead with this first, and then you see his head goes up, pops up.
Yeah.
And then his body lifts, and then his hip goes up, and this I just wanted it to be like a straight translation. Like it's more about just the fingers doing that with that one pose. And here I'm choosing to drag with his body a little bit, so his leg goes first, and you see this big. I mean, my line of action is not very clean here. Here is kind of dirty. But anyways, the idea was that I was going for this, the leg landing first, and his body is dragging, and then it catches up. So again, if you see his head is again, it's traversing that arc.
Yes, we can see the arc on the head as well.
Yeah. And this whole exercise was a good practice of mechanics. And
yes, so you definitely want a shot like this to be in your portfolio, where it shows your clear understanding of the mechanics. Like you have that you're following proper arcs, you have enough, lead and follow, you have enough drag and all that. Yeah, Prashanth, that's a very good example. Really awesome animation there.
Thank you. Wait. Sorry. There's this other one which I was wanting to show. I think in sorry, just a minute.
So, so I like to add something on that. So also, as animator, you're trying to surprise the audience, because you're not trying to show. You prepare audience for something, but then you suddenly show them something else. So, good example was that initially he does all the overlap, arcs and overlap, everything in clean, and then suddenly he surprises with a punch. So audience is like, wow, what is that? So he's trying to keep the audience engaged. So he does it with timing, and he does it with arcs. Okay, so timing is changing there. Like initially it's smooth, and then timing is fast. Also, he does it with something which is full of arcs, and then suddenly there's a straight line. So so you are engaged throughout. Again, so when he goes this side, and when he's trying to be something menacing, and then he suddenly surprises you again by doing that fluttering pose. So you were not laughing when you saw that, and that is how the animator is making the shot entertaining. He's not just showing off his technical skills; he's showing his creative skills also. And that's where you're becoming a good animator, because at a like after 3-4 years of experience, no one is talking about arcs and all to you. They're talking about, is the shot entertaining? Is he conveying your idea properly? Is the character conveying his idea properly? That is more important. Yeah. Do carry on, Prashanth.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another example. This is again from Boss Baby. And this is a moment where this father is saving his daughter. And it's towards the end of the movie. And again, it's got some bits where, he's running and then he catches on. So there's a bit of mechanics as well as performance type to it in a way. Let me just play this.
Oh, I got you, Tabitha. I gotcha.
That's my big brother.
Thanks, Marcos Lightspeed.
I
thought we both had to grow up.
Well, let's not grow up too fast. I love you, Dad.
I love you, Tabitha Templeton.
Aww.
So in this one,
yeah, so much body movement, body mechanics in this one.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm doing is again the classic run cycle.
Yeah.
Cycle as in it's not that I could take it from somewhere, I have to do it myself. So usually what I do in such cases is like I use a layering method. I don't know if it might help the people over here. Is it's a good practice to try out because when you're performing, you'll probably need to focus more on what he's doing and you'll not be too much into the run. So I just do the up and down of the body and have his body inclination, and then I add the legs. So the legs come in a little later, but I make sure that I then make the run work with the mechanics that I have. So here you see that obviously when he's up, and when the weight drops down, and then he pushes up there. So I wanted that movement where he catches the daughter to be a part where he just like he throws himself up and then he comes down with her, sort of a thing. And then the weight of the daughter kind of, you can see the weight of her, his arms, and then he does his big weight. I mean, what do you call it? The turnaround or whatever.
I got you, Tabitha.
And then again, there's this weight over here, right? Like,
how
he has to hold. So he's holding her. So right through this, it's kind of a complicated scenario where there's multiple constraining happening. I'm holding her here, and his arms are constrained to her body. Her hand is constrained to his chest, and I'm not constraining her body to his body. Her body is moving separately. Only his hand is constrained to her body. So I have to keep a track of that, and then I'm doing a small anticipation. So an anticipation before he goes, and he lifts her up, and that's with his. What was that?
Gets the child on the shoulder.
Yeah. So if you see, his shoulder goes up a little bit, like he does a little bit of this before he. If you notice that.
I got
there.
I got you.
And then he pulls her up. So you can see him go down and just kind of really gather her fully and then pull her up.
Got you, Tabitha.
And then again, I didn't want her to just stick to him right away as she jumps. It's like, you like clinging onto someone. So I have a sub beat there, like another small beat of her.
Yes.
That's another thing. And then all of this is again, I mean, it's not performance related, but then considering a person who's run so far and he's done all of that and holding, you'll be panting, you'll be really breathing. So that was something I pushed after I got the feedback from the director. Like I had it, but he said you can go even further. So
I got you.
And then choosing where to say I got you. To me, I think breathing is very important. Again, I don't want to stress too much upon acting at this stage, but then I got you. We usually breathe out when we talk, right? Like if you observe, like we never are breathing in, we're kind of breathing out. So that's a classic example. Like he's out of breath. I got you. So he's saying that when he's breathing out, so I had to time my breathing cycle, not the cycle, but breathing in and out to match with the dialogue delivery as well.
Gotcha.
That's my big brother.
I gotcha.
That's my big brother.
And this is a simple shot. Like again, like I'm seeing where I can lead and follow. He's leading with his head.
Yeah, the head goes up first and then the arms.
Yeah,
that's my big brother.
Thanks, Marcos Lightspeed.
And this is all more. I mean, there's not mechanics in this, more of performance in this. But I'm trying to make sure that they seem a little connected and it doesn't seem like one is floating in the air. And
I thought we both had to grow up.
Well, let's not grow up too fast.
And then there's something I'm doing here. The small hop again is this is like stuff that perhaps may not be relevant to the guys over there right now, but I'm saying the understanding of mechanics really propels a shot, like, that small hop that he does, because you do it right when you're hugging someone, you're hugging them tight, and you kind of do that kind of a small bounce. I wanted to get that momentum, and you see that. And when I do that, my head drags there, and you see some of the body as well, like the elbows going down.
Yes.
I love you, Dad.
And there's another.
It was great. So this was a combination of physical body mechanics plus performance, facial performance. Both were there in that.
Yeah, it was a very challenging bit, and it was fun as well. This is from Trolls. I don't know if people watch Trolls there.
Yeah, they did.
Anyways, so there are, like, for example, this shot, right? Are you guys able to hear this one?
Yes, yes.
Anyways.
No! We have to get back down there!
So here she does this small. Poppy is doing this. Let me play the shot first.
No! We have to get back down there! There's still hope. We can still fix this.
Poppy, enough! I've listened to you and I've done it your way, and now it's your turn to listen. It's time to get back home.
I'm not like you. I can't just give up.
Give up? I want to protect our friends and family.
I can't go home until I've proven myself as a good queen.
So that's what this is really all about.
Why are you so upset?
So here, right, I'm, again, mechanics-wise.
No!
You see that she's leading from her head. Basically, it's supposed to be a balloon in which they are doing some kind of a Superman sort of a, levitation there inside. There's no sense to it. In the world of Trolls, there's no sense. There's actually inside a bubble. So, so the brief that we got from the director was like, just imagine they were Superman sort of creatures, like, and they could just glide and they could just stay there levitating inside.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh!
So I'm leading with my head, and my body follows, and my legs drag there. And then again, when I go back, again come forward.
Yeah, even I see that one hand comes there first, then the other hand comes.
Yeah, offsetting those as well.
Yeah, offsetting the hand. So one comes first, and then the other comes, and then you have a tiny adjustment also on the balloon, like on the hand.
Yeah.
It adds a more human-like quality to.
Have to get back down there.
Yeah, and I'm trying to even do the same thing, like leading with the head. So you see the shoulder turn slowly, and then the body turns.
Yes. Yes.
And then the legs are
dragging. There's still.
The legs shouldn't seem like they're underwater, but then they should seem like they're dragging.
Yes. We can still fix this.
Poppy, enough.
There was another bit. I did quite a few dances in this. There's no audio to this bit.
It's pronounced.
And there's another small progression.
Sillo. If you want him, you're going to have to dance for him. I can't live in a world without reggaeton. It's pronounced tresillo. If you want him, you're going to have to dance for him. I can't live in a world without reggaeton.
So basically, again, it's a walk cycle, and then he's getting into all of these dance moves. It's supposed to be like a dance move, but then a clear indication of where I'm leading from. I wanted to play this gag in a way that he's like frozen, like if you want him, and then his arm starts to magically do it all by itself, and then he gets into the dance. And then he had to settle into some kind of a cool pose.
You're going to have to dance for him. I can't live in a world without reggaeton.
And you can see that these girls are just translating how there's no acting on them.
Yeah, even that cool pose, you see that it's so perfectly balanced, and silhouette.
You want him?
Silhouettes is very, very important in animation in general, and even on Trolls it matters so much more, because I need a clear read on this hand. It should be clear negative space. It should not overlap. I should have a clear read of where his upper arm is, and I'm trying to get some nice right angles. Like, see this kind of a right angle kind of a treatment, and then they say that you should avoid the symmetry, but on Trolls it works a lot. It makes it even more appealing. Like, I wouldn't really make this leg a little more straighter because, both look very symmetrical. No, I would keep it more symmetrical. I would make it. So that's one way of working on trolls.
Yeah, great. You're trying to show the pinky also in that pose, huh? Although you may not have, but you did try to show that. So that also adds, a real attitude.
Going to have to dance for him.
Yeah.
I can't live in a world without reggaeton. It's pronounced tresillo. If you want him, you're going to have to dance for him.
Again, there is not much of mechanics fleshing out in this. Still, it's just a pose.
But you're going to have to dance for him. I can't live in a world without.
But then the performance went through some changes. He needs to feel more passionate. I can't live.
Yeah. Even I think when he's
reggaeton.
Sijo or something, I can see that, words are coming from his belly.
Yeah, just Sijo, yeah.
Yeah.
That
is also great.
And then...
it's pronounced tresillo. If you want him, you're going to have to dance for him.
Here you can see some fleshiness in the way he settles here.
Yes.
So when you see...
Yes.
Especially where he settles here. You can see that I'm doing some stuff like, some overshoot in the way he settles his body.
Feels more organic, feels more like, like a jelly kind of material.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be overdone. At the same time, it shouldn't look like a formula. I'm trying to make sure that I get it.
Yes.
Like, his head is doing a little bit of shake as he settles. And his arm is trying to settle in.
You're going to have to...
I mean, these are the things that you can think of in mechanics. Like if you were to really think of a pantomime shot, think of ways in which you can offset things. Think of ways in which you can make it more fleshy if it's a character that allows you to do such kind of things.
For him, I can't live in a world without reggaeton. It's pronounced tresillo. If you want him, you're going to have to dance for him. I can't live in a world without reggaeton.
And some dances I did, like there was some crazy. So
yeah, doing dance is really, really complicated.
Yeah. This was a challenging one because this was based on certain beats, and he was supposed to get magically wrapped up, and then he realizes that he's been trapped by them. Basically, they're trying to do a dance off, and whoever dances better gets Branch, and they get to take him away. So Branch participates in both the dances. So these are the reggaeton trolls. So reggaeton trolls, the brief that we got was it should be more snake-like their movements, and it should be more emanating from the hip. Like you must have seen more of reggaeton dances and what's that? Niente. That's the song that on which we don't have it on the reel because of copyright issues and all that.
Okay.
But that's the dance that they're dancing to in this. So it's all about hips and how they move. So I had to get that in the performance.
Okay.
So I'm.
Yeah. So carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to see if there's other things that I can talk about in this.
So that's more on the the body part. So we've covered mostly push pull, weight shift, and walk cycles, to do or not to do, and we spoke about pantomime. We spoke about Parker, where characters jumping. So can we just discuss a little bit on acting part? Like what I tell students is to pick up a dialogue from any movie, which is not very popular though, and pick a dialogue, and maybe it can be like a 8-10 second dialogue, and just do acting on that. Push your creativity and put a story to it. So can you just talk about a little bit of that?
I think acting is. I think it's the most challenging aspect in animation. Because once you get a handle of mechanics, I mean, if you practice it enough, you will get it. But acting, you can, I mean, even for the best animators, he needs to get the right idea for his acting to look good. Like, it's not like, okay, you know this, so you can deal with anything. So you need to find the right, I mean, to me, the most important thing is the choice. You need to find the most important, the correct choice for that particular moment. When you say acting, because you can act in many ways. Like I was just talking the other day with another guy who wants some feedback on a shot. He was acting a shot where he's at a dinner, at a dining table or something. There's a plate in front of him, and he kind of felt very contained in the way he was performing, because he was very concerned about where the plate is and how his hands are, and so you're not actually making the right choices. So I think what's very important with acting is intent, and that comes with subtext. So if you were to try out acting shots, always I would say recommend definitely write out the dialogue. I do it still. I still have. I don't type it on the computer. I actually write it down on a book, because it's a good practice to memorize your lines. Write it out, and I usually break it out into phrases. Like if there's a word, like for example, let's say this shot.
I raised Poppy to be strong and self-confident. I was a genius.
So he just is doing some crazy things. Right? So when he says, I raised Poppy to be strong and self-conscious.
Genius. I raised Poppy to be strong and
basically, I'm thinking of what is he thinking of inside? I mean, what is that thought that is driving him? So what would really help is I usually write down the sentence, and then I write the subtext. And same way for the second phrase, I break it down. The second phrase is this, second phrase subtext is this. So when you read, then you just don't read the dialogue, you only read the phrases. You kind of get to know what you're going to emote, and simultaneously your mind is already thinking, okay, I can be doing this, I can be doing that, and that would be a good starting point for you to shoot a reference. Till then, I don't think, I would not recommend, or there are different ways of doing it. There's no one good way of doing it.
Yes.
But it's always good to know your subtext before you shoot the reference. So then that way, you can even shoot a reference without miming the dialogue if you were to do that. Because many times what happens is that you tend to always think of memorizing the dialogue. Oh, am I forgetting it? Am I saying the dialogue properly? And your mind is more focused on telling the dialogue out right than actually acting it out. Just try doing it without the dialogue and just the actions. That makes it more, you will see that you feel a lot more free in doing it.
Yes.
So you could do a pass of that, and then you could do a reference with your dialogue acting, and that is one very crucial thing, I would say. Subtext for sure, acting shots, and then reference also becomes very, very, very important. I think for acting shots, for sure, starting point, reference, and then understanding the screen space, the composition, and how your character is moving. And if you were doing something in your reference, try to get a version that works well on your character. The same idea, but that works well on your character.
Yes.
It's easy to say that, but if you just do the same acting, it might not look good on the character that you're working on. So that's another thing that you can think of when it comes to acting. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just blabbering something. I don't know.
No. It perfectly makes sense. I mean, subtext is one of the words, one of the topics we already had discussion for advanced acting classes. For the older batches, we've already discussed about subtext. So subtext, getting the subtext right is very important. Subtext is something where, where your character feels something, but when he's telling, he's saying something else. So maybe if I do not like you, and I would say that it's pleased to meet you, or like really happy to see you, but inside I do not like it. So I am not going to act that thing out like showing really happy face. I would play that thing in a way that it also spills the underlying emotion inside on my acting. So that is the subtext. So getting the subtext right. So that's why Prashanth was saying, writing that dialogue, and under that, put some brackets. So, divide that dialogue in 2 chunks or 3 chunks, and make sure that, first chunk is the subtext is the character is angry, and the second subtext, the character is sad. So try to build your acting around that. So it's a very, very important point, I think, Prashanth has mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Well summarized.
Yeah. So go ahead, Prashanth.
No, what I meant to say is that, and also acting choices need to be, think of acting choices that are kind of a little offbeat. It doesn't need to be like, super extravagant, but something that is very inherent to you is the best way to start. Like, not everybody enacts the same way. Not everybody gestures the same way.
Yes.
So I think tapping that inside, within you is a good starting point, and you get a lot of good, unique ideas. And I think another thing with acting is it gets very subjective when you get feedback. So it's better that you're clear and try out a version that of your idea that is more universally accepted than actually something that only works to you. So you like something like, you're saying, hey, I like this bit. It looks good, but it's perhaps just something that you are connecting with and not the others. And it's always good to get feedback that way.
Yes,
so you get a complete, a holistic view. So it's always good to show your shots to your peers and your supervisors and get a feedback and incorporate that. I mean, every time you get a feedback, look at the shot in a new perspective than actually thinking, I need to fix this. Eventually that will catch up for sure, but it's always recommended that you take it in the right spirit. So feedback is also very, very important when it comes to acting shots, because it's very subjective. What people perceive is very different.
Okay, so what we recommend students here, like apart from having these shots of body mechanics and all that, have an acting shot as well at the end of your reel. So we recommend around 6 to 8 seconds or 8 to 12 seconds of acting. Is that an ideal timeline, do you think, for acting?
6 to 8 seconds, yeah, should be fine.
Yeah. So at least one shot, so that you can show that you can do physical body mechanics stuff and also a bit of acting stuff. So that sort of completes your portfolio in animation.
Yeah, I would say, because as an entry level, you definitely need to have at least some understanding of acting.
Okay.
Because all mechanics won't work. I mean, if you're applying for a gaming company, in-game animation, it might work. But in almost every other scenario, you need to at least have a demonstration of acting. So perhaps I would even say a couple of shots in the end. Maybe one to demonstrate a single character and a double character shot as well in the end. That really help. I mean, it's just to show that you can handle more than more than a single character.
Yes. So the a shot with two characters talking to each other can be like an 8 second, 12 seconds. So at least you can show that how you can show that how one character is reacting to the other characters, whatever it's saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the bottom line of it all, I would still say, is the ideas that you bring to the table, regardless of what post you're applying to, where you are, in which position, senior position or a junior position, is the ideas that you bring to the table. Like in your reel, there needs to be some freshness. If not, your reel would just get lost amongst the millions and millions of reels that are around. And if there's some spark of it somewhere, especially it's more tougher now, man. I mean, considering, back in the days, I made my demo reel in 2008, I think, and there weren't as many animation schools out there, as many people pursuing animation. But now it's like double, triple, 5 times maybe. So you really need to do that much more to stand out. So where all of this plays is, the edge that you'll have is your ideas. And of course, definitely your mechanics and understanding of it that will support your ideas. So yeah, that is something that will really sell your reel. I'm saying this because because I used to review the demo reels while I was at DDU towards the end, like the last few years. And when we took in some people for the Awesomeness TV, we used to review reels, and this is some part that we used to stress upon, like, okay, this guy is good, but I don't know, they don't see that spark in his work, or so adding ideas is always your own stamp is what really defines your reel.
Yeah, great. So why don't we move on? Take up questions from students. I'm sure there are a lot of questions on portfolio. So let's open that up to students. Guys, you want to ask any question? One was there, portfolio based, I think yours. You were asking.
It was answered, but I was wondering if we can see his portfolio, what he had added.
They are asking if we can see your show reel or portfolio, but basically, you know, whatever.
My first portfolio.
Yeah, sure.
This is what I was wanting to show. I mean, I for some reason I was not able to find. Let me just try. Just give me a moment. I can show you.
Anything is fine, Prashanth. Like, you know, we know that.
I can show you my short film that I did at the end of my animation mentor program.
Okay, yeah, great. That would be even better. So, guys, Animation Mentor is like an online animation school. It's still functioning. So it's a very old school, and a lot of great people are, you know, passed out from there. I worked with a lot of great people from Animation Mentor. So what they require there is to, you know, at the end of your course, almost do a short film. So I think that's what Prashanth is trying to present you.
Yeah, this is this was a part of my portfolio, you could say, along with some of the other shots which I'm not able to find.
Sure.
But I'm gonna play this.
Can you make it bigger, Prashanth? Is it on? Yeah.
Is it working fine?
Yes.
Audio?
Yeah. That's great. I've not seen this, Prashanth. It's the first time I'm watching.
Stupid man.
No, it's really funny. I think all elements of you know, making a good movie, good animation is there. Very entertaining. That's what it's for. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Guys, any other? No questions? Come on, guys.
I have a question about animation, not portfolio related.
Yeah.
Does skill in different types of animation translate? Like Pixar has a certain style, like
Pixar has certain
style of animation, and some other studios will have more 2D or some other style. Does the skills translate?
Does it?
Does the skills translate from different styles of animation?
Okay, so he's saying that, you know, most of the time, you know, so Sony's animation will be a different style, DreamWorks animation is different style, Pixar has a different style. So, you know, how do you cope up with, and how you know, how do you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all show specific, I would say, because I mean, every studio does a variety of styles. Like Sony, I mean, I'm a big fan of Sony, what they do, and to me, like, you know, they did what's the most realistic? Sony is gone. Because their stuff is usually very pushed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they did Over the Moon, right?
Yeah.
Over the Moon was Sony, I think.
Yes.
So that's more grounded and more realism based.
Yes.
And then the same guys can do something like Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah.
Hotel Transylvania to me is like my best franchise. I mean, I love it. Like if you were to ask me what is my favorite franchise, that is it. Like to me, that's like the best form of animation.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Just the pure entertainment in the way it's animated is what propels the movie. It's amazing, mind-blowing. So Sony does that. So it's based on I would say it's based on the show that you're in. Every studio has a variety. DreamWorks also has a variety, I would say. We have got something like dragons, and you have the trolls on one side, you have Madagascar on one side, and then you have got Boss Baby somewhere, and then Croods. So it's a nice variety. Disney, perhaps not as much, though their stuff is amazing, but they kind of make the usually fairy tale kind of stuff, so not as much variety with their animation. But I would say Sony, Pixar as well. Luca also has got some nice variety, like it's very simple.
Yes.
And I would say Sony and DreamWorks really have a lot of variety in the way
yes.
the shows.
Yeah. So I've seen in DreamWorks, they do a lot of experimenting with animation style. Like you said, Madagascar was very fast, snappy graphic compared to Shrek. So animators can work both ways. It's not like I am a master in snappy animation, I cannot do Shrek. It's not like that. So once you can do animation, you can jump to gaming also. It's not like I'm just a production animator, I can't do gaming. And gaming people can as well come to animation, because if we work with people from gaming, and they were equally good with production when they were acting, So that is good. Even Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that as well.
And I like the philosophy of Sony. Sony says that if we are in this medium of animation, why you want to replicate like real life? Why you want to mimic real life? Why can't we be very, very cartoony? So that is how the philosophy comes from. So they're really exploiting the medium of animation.
I mean, Sony's movies are like Hotel Transylvania is like an education, like just framing through those shots is like so much fun, man. My daughter loves it so much.
Yes.
She just loves it for the pure entertainment in animation, not the story. She cannot understand the story as much. It's just the way the animation is. That's like, like striking gold, you would say.
Have you seen the short film Blush? It's done by the Skydance studio. I think John Lasseter joined there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So just
is it a new one?
Yeah, it's a fairly new one. I think it's Apple TV oriented. I think Apple TV original. So it's just there on Apple TV. It's not out anywhere, but it's really good. So you can see John Lasseter's influence in that. Yeah, and
interesting.
If you happen to find time just to watch that.
Sure.
Yeah. Also, I like, what is the ideal length of an animation portfolio? So that is one of the questions I get from students. Like, how long do I make the animation reel? 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. That's what I tell them.
2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes is fair.
Yeah,
I would say 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, there is no, you can definitely don't cross 2 minutes at least for a beginner level. But even if it's lesser than 2 minutes, if you have one shot that has everything in it, go for it. Like, if you can showcase everything in, see, again, that's again a way to think out of the box. Like, just design a sequence where you're doing mechanics and you're showing everything in that one shot, and you have a combination of pantomime and weight and stuff like that. So how different your reel is what kind of defines your chances.
Okay, great. Any other questions, guys? No? You can ask It's not like we are running out of time. Yeah, if you, yes.
I have a question, like how much time it will take to create the animation?
Okay. So he's asking, how much time you should dedicate to make that portfolio. Like, some students, they just pass out, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. What do you think? Like,
at least give it a solid, I would say at least give it a solid 2 or 3 months at least.
Okay.
Because you will have to do all of these. Like if you had to start from scratch. I mean, the thing is, you will not say, okay, fine, I learned animation, now I'll do a portfolio, right? Like through the process of animating, you would have done certain tests.
Yes.
So you already would have certain things. But then if you think that, oh, hey, I don't have this acting bit, I need to add another couple of acting shots. I would say at least spend another 2 or 3 months. I don't think you're losing anything. You're investing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, great. So with that, we'll just move on to the very short section, which is more on your, career-oriented choices. How do I go forward from here? So if you have questions on that, do ask. Further studies, what to do. Should I pursue, go out after this thing? Any questions based on that? Yes. So there's one question like for further studies like MSc, if you go for masters, after doing this course, will it help in your career?
It depends. I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, it really depends on the training and where you're doing masters and who is training you. If you are under the right mentor, I think.
Yeah, most of the
one thing is that it definitely adds to getting a master's degree. If you're getting a master's degree, the reason I'm saying that is because if you were ever to travel to the US to get a visa and all of that stuff, I now know how important a master's degree is.
Yes.
I have a bachelor's degree. It kind of worked out for me, but then if you were to ever think of getting a visa and were to work abroad or something of that sort, that'll help. You will, but eventually what's on your portfolio is what speaks. Like when you were to get into a company, nobody is going to look at your what you did. Masters, it's going to be a pricey affair as well, right? Like you need to spend money and all that. Again, it's left to you, like where you want to do masters and how accessible it is to you, and then you can take a call. But I would say, for you to get a job in the industry, all you're going to be judged on is your demo reel. That's it. I remember when we used to review reels, we used to see his resume, the resume of the person, his or her resume, and then just say, okay, fine, that's the person's name, and where's the demo reel, and then have a look at the demo reel, and then okay, fine, we have contact him, check out his resume. So number. So you just only need it for that. But then if you were to verify certain things, that would come of some help. But then it's all.
That's what I tell students, masters. So most of them, I spoke to, they want to go out to do masters, maybe Canada, Australia, or UK or America. So that's what I tell them. It helps you get the job there, but at the end of the day, all they care about is the portfolio. So in a company where, I have 2 resumes and I want to hire some expat, which if, like, for example, I'm sitting in America, I want to hire someone from outside the country, 2 portfolios. So one which has masters, it'll be easier for me to convince the government that please give him visa because he has masters, because government prefers to give visas to people who has masters. But quality wise, if certain person is just like a notch below you, but still they will prefer the person who's master, even though your demo reel is good. It has to be exceptionally good for the company to really put your case forward to the government that please give him visa. So that is where masters come and really help you. And masters in India, again, is not such a big deal in the sense to get a job. Again, like he said, when you're watching a resume, after reading the name, all you care is how good the demo reel is. And masters will definitely get you good job in academics if you want to teach. So that is also, so it is definitely helpful, but it's all up to you where you're doing, like he said, and how much money you're willing to spend on masters. Okay, good. Any more questions? So I just want to wrap up with very simple questions like, what is your typical day in DreamWorks like? How do you start your day and how you end your day?
So my day, after this whole work from home thing started, it has changed. Before that, it used to be 9:15 at work, and around 10 o'clock you have dailies. Dailies is a time when people present their shots to the directors. So basically, you would have worked on the shots previously on the previous days, and then had a version ready, so that the next day morning you come in and prep your shots, and then upload the shots. Share it with production, and they upload it for the review. So 10 o'clock ideally is dailies. That will last for about an hour. 11 o'clock I come back, and then 11 to 12:30 I work for a bit, and then 12:30 is a lunchtime over here, 12:30 to 1:30 ish, and then 1:30 I'm back again. So then again it depends, like that I have a good stretch from 1:30 till around 6:30 ish or so, and maybe there may be rounds like head of animation rounds where you can present shots to your head of animation and get feedback, or you might have supervisors checking in on you, but you get solid desk time from 1:30 till around 6:30 ish in the evening. And sometimes we stretch, like we have a 45-hour week over here, which means that we work like 9 hours 5 days. So essentially from 9 to 7 sometimes, or we start early. So after work from home, it's now like all over the place. Right now it's like, I get up in the morning, I have to prep my daughter, I have to put her to, send her to the school, and then come back. I started around 9:45 ish, worked till around 12:30, and then I had to go pick her up again, and then then I do another 2-3 hours in the afternoon, and then I come back in the evening. We go to the park. And it's important because this kind of has opened up different possibilities of working, and I feel that you can spend time with your family with this flexibility. So I go take them out, and we spend some time in the evening, come back. So she sleeps at around 9 ish, so 9:30 I start again. I go up till around 12:30, 1:30 sometimes. I don't go beyond 1:30 almost, because I know that it's going to screw up the next day for me. So so I like work in like 3 hours packets here and there.
Okay. Do you like when you're going to the office, do you stick to a time to leave office, or does it like you
Yes.
overshoot? And
I make sure that I come in for sure on time. 9 o'clock maximum, 9:15. And I think here, I think it's good to be punctual, because everything, like all your meetings when you graduate out and when you attend meetings, it's all on dot. It's all a calendar invite, and you need to be there on time.
Yes.
1 minute here and there is fine.
Yeah.
But then it kind of trains you to be more punctual in the way you approach things, and leaving is also more or less on time, because you don't want to be spending. There are times that you have to put in extra work. You're paid overtime for that, OT for that. But other than that, it's like usually sticking to the timing and trying to maximize your work hours.
So people there are more punctual and sticking to the respecting time of theirs and respecting time of other people. Be it
exactly
coming in time, leaving even deadline of the shot. Do you think it's all right if you extend a bit of deadline for your shot?
See, ours is a product company, right? Like, so they can kind of stretch. So see, I do it. For example, I don't want to let go of my shot so easily, so I tend to put in as much as I can. So in doing that, if I feel that if I spend another day, I might get something else, some more, I can push the shot even more. I can tell production saying that, hey, you think it's okay, I show this, I hand it off tomorrow. So they're like, most likely, 100, I've never had anybody say that, no, it's not okay. They usually give you the time and then you finish it. that's one advantage of being with a product company. But service companies, you're working for a client, it may be even more tricky and challenging. So you really need to plan your workflow in a way that it allows you to spend that much of time in the end, and that it doesn't eat up your polishing time and you don't have anything left, and you just have to hand over the shot. So yeah, it's a balance, I would say.
Okay, great Prashanth. So with that, we can wrap up for today's event. Thank you, that was so insightful. It was great talking to you.
Same here, man.
Yeah. So we do hope that we often connect and we meet often, so that students are also enlightened by your views and insights. So thank you again so much being there for such late in the night. And
no problems.
Yeah, we'll see you again, Prashanth. Thank you from all of us, and thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you everyone. Yeah. See
Thank you guys.
And yeah. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.